Welcome, Melissa, to the Fempreneur podcast.
Hello, hello, hello.
All right, so Melissa's business is Hire Talent Recruitment, and I'm really excited for her to share her sort of transition from being an employee and having her, her more of a job role versus now for the last over a year now, you've been an entrepreneur, you've had your own business. So tell us about the process of starting your own business, Melissa.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me to do this. It's always fun, and it's always fun to catch up with you. So my process started last May, so May of 2023, and actually probably started in like April because I was going into work and I was just crabby. And I love what I do, but I was like A1 supreme.
You can swear on this podcast, by the way.
So I thought to myself, like, what is going on? I love what I do. Why am I so bitchy? So I decided to quit my job and kind of figure out what was next. And there were a couple of options, and took like a couple weeks and looked at both like hard, and decided that the best thing for me to do was to start my own recruitment company. So that is what I did. And like when you're starting out, you think, okay, well, this is going to be easy. I'm going to pick a name. I'm going to hit the ground running. And no, it's not that easy. I hired a marketing strategist, and we worked together and did some great work there. And came time to pick a name, and I thought I had it. And people were like, I don't get it. So I was like, oh, okay. So then I went back to her, and she's like, okay, we'll come up with like a list of 5. Send them out to people that you know and trust, and see what comes back. So did that, and then had a couple that I was like, yes, okay, perfect. No, not okay, not perfect. By the time the lawyer came back and said, nope, somebody else has that registered, like a couple of iterations, right? And these are things that you don't know as you're going through. You just think, well, like I thought I've never heard of that, so I should be good. No. So yeah, that was interesting, that piece of it. That's for sure. That was probably the most frustrating part, because you kind of I got tied to a couple of the names and thought for sure they were going to be it. But yeah, so yeah, I went through that process, and Hire Talent Recruitment was born. And so that was June of 2023. So it's been 14 months now, and no looking back. Like I said, I love recruitment. So now working for myself and, making my own hours and making my own rules and working from wherever I want and not working when I don't feel like it, right?
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you. And one of the neat things I think about your story is you already knew exactly what you're going to be doing in your business, as far as what were the deliverables going to look like, and how were you going to build proposals, and how were you going to price everything like that. I feel like that was not challenging for you. You knew exactly what that looked like. And then you really just had to do it. You just had to do it. Like be honest, how long had you been thinking about starting your own business?
Well, so my last job, I was really fortunate. When I joined that organization, the owner of the company was like, there's your desk, there's your computer, here's our way of doing things, go. So I, for 5 years, ran my desk like it was my own business.
Yeah.
But under somebody else's umbrellas with their rules, right? So I think I've always had that sort of entrepreneurial approach to work.
Yeah. Which is why you've been so successful, and you've always kicked ass in your careers, because you treat it like your own business, which is awesome.
Well, yeah. I mean, everybody talks about like your brand, right? And I before that was a thing, I was very conscientious of, this is my work and my reputation on the line. And so everything that I did work-wise was about essentially building the Melissa Lyall brand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay, I want to talk to you about so many things today, but one thing that I want to do is try to recreate what happened when you were on our panel at our YYC Fempreneurs event, speaking in person, and we
Yeah.
had this really great question or kind of a just an issue presented to the panel about charging what you're worth or having people that maybe are like lowballing you on price and things like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, everyone on the panel had some really great stuff to add to it and chimed in on it. But you really, I think, delivered a lot of punch with what you said about that. Do you remember that? Can you kind of maybe tee that up?
I don't remember exactly what I said, but I'll tell you like my approach now. So when I started, I was like, oh, I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna do this with my pricing. And I decided I wanted to tier my pricing. And I started with something that is on the lower end in the recruitment industry. And I wasn't doing an engagement fee. I've switched now.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, not one of my clients has balked at paying that engagement fee.
Awesome.
Yeah. And even with my tiered system, the majority of people, when they have the option, like I have 3 different tiers, right?
Okay.
The majority of people will go in the middle. And even some will go at that top end.
Yep.
But the interesting thing is, and I've heard this a lot lately, if you think your clients can't afford you, then they will think that they can't afford it.
And that's exactly what you said. That's exactly what you said. You got inside her mind and you helped her realize that she was the problem.
Yeah.
She was creating this problem.
The barrier.
She was thinking that this was a real thing. And so she was acting it out without even saying the words. She was treating people like they didn't have money and couldn't afford it. She was offering payment plans before they even asked for them when they probably would have just paid up front.
Yeah. 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 And like my engagement fee is exactly that. Right. And more recruiters are starting to do that, especially people who are solopreneurs. Because in recruitment, you do a ton of work and sometimes for naught.
Right.
Because your client has decided that they want to work with multiple recruiters, or they're also looking to fill that position. And if they can save the thousands of dollars on the recruitment fee, they will.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, you've spent hours upon hours of scouring and interviewing and pre-screening and like the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I had one peer in the industry, Will, and he's like, you have to start doing this.
Mm.
And when he first said that, I was like, oh, I don't know. And then I just thought, fuck it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to do it.
Good for you.
Yeah.
For you. And like you said, I mean, pretty much everyone, I think, in our industry that, provides a service and even coaching, people who are providing coaching like myself, we need to be charging for a lot more than what we are. I mean, I know I do a free consultation with everyone, and I love that. I just love getting to know people and chit-chatting with them, and then I build them a proposal. And so at that point, I'm probably about 2 hours into an investment of my time into this, because I generally do a bit of research about them before the free call, and then the time that's spent in the free call. And then I put together a custom proposal for them. And so I'm into it for about 2 hours of my time. But I also really learn a lot through that process and I enjoy that. But I'm not willing to do more than that 2 hours for free, right? Then it's like, hey, you either, pay and engage me and I'm working with you or not. And so good for you for saying, yeah, you have to pay me to do all of this initial work, whether or not you end up hiring anyone through me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And if you don't, then you've paid that and it's paid for some of my time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you end up hiring somebody from me, then that just comes off the end of your final invoice. But
Well, exactly.
nobody has said anything other than, of course, you should be paid for something for your time.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you. Good
Yeah.
for you. Because, yeah, I know the ripple effect of that conversation that we had while you were on the panel that day. I've continually heard offshoot stories that stem from what they heard while you were there on stage. And so
Amazing.
I just wanted to be able to kind of keep that ball rolling and spread that ripple out a little further through the podcast today. So I think we've done a good job of that. Maybe we can move on now.
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome. All right. So tell us more about what you actually do. Like, what do you actually do as a recruiter? For those of us who've always worked in Fempreneur land and always just kind of done our own thing, we
Yeah.
may not be familiar. I know I wasn't. I was like, what does a recruiter actually do and how does it
Right.
work?
So I work with companies who are looking to fill positions, and usually when they come to me, it's because it's become a pain point. Sometimes not, but a lot of times yes. So Lindsay at YYC Fempreneurs needs to hire an assistant. She's tried and she's been bombarded by thousands of resumes where maybe one or two were good, and like you don't have the time. So you call me up and you say, this is what I'm looking for. Can you help me?
Mhm.
And so we have a whole conversation about your company, about you, about who you're looking for. I maybe help you craft a job spec because maybe you have one, maybe you don't. And then I go out into the market and I go and I find you that person that you're looking for.
After I pay the engagement fee.
After you pay the engagement fee. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then if I hire this person that you found me, then I pay you kind of a
Then you,
closing fee.
yeah, then you pay a percentage of their first year salary.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So
Wonderful.
then and throughout that process, like I personally am always in your back pocket. Like I send weekly updates. We can hop on a call anytime. Once we get to an interview stage, like I have a client currently and she called me up. She's like, okay, so you sent me 6 great candidates. Do I need to interview all of them? And I said, well, no, you don't need to. Let's have a conversation. Why yes, why no? And so I work with you to figure out, because sometimes I'll throw a curveball in there. Sometimes I throw somebody in and clients are like, not even close to what I'm looking for. And it's right from a education or experience background, maybe not, but they've got pieces of it. But from a fit background, they're exactly who you're looking for.
Okay.
So I have that conversation, I'm very hands-on and I'm very involved in that process because it's so important.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I know that you can't like technically get paid to find people work, but you still want to know who's out there looking for work. You want to know who's out there looking to get jobs. How do you work the sort of connection and networking and that side of your business?
Yeah. So I've always said it's a chicken and egg thing, right? Like when somebody who's looking for work approaches me, I always say to them, we can work together. You can't pay me to help you find work because that's not legal.
Yeah.
And it is a little bit tougher to skill market somebody into a job. So what that means is, let's take Shell. Shell has a position posted. I see it, or the candidate sees it, and they say to me, hey, can you present me to Shell?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little bit tougher because Shell hasn't engaged me.
Yeah, Shell
and
is
now,
a client.
now I'm going to them and saying, hey, by the way, I have your person and here's my contract, right? So they would have to like 1,000% be the person for a company to usually engage with that.
Okay.
The majority of the time, the companies are like, thanks, but no, we don't have a budget to work with a recruiter, or we have contracts with others, whatever it is. But getting to know the candidate side is super important.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a good network of people who are looking for work, then when you get that job in, it makes your job that much harder, because then you have to start from scratch.
Right. So you still
And
have people who are looking for jobs sending you their resume saying, "Hey, if you see anything that looks like it's a fit for me," but like I'm sure that's your worst nightmare, but you must have that constantly.
yeah, quite a bit. And I've decided to do things differently. I'm not going to collect resumes from people to upload them into a database to never see the light of day. I don't think there's value in that. So I'm very much more about, let's connect on LinkedIn, let's speak on LinkedIn, let's network, because you know me, I'm all about get out there and network, because that is how things are done in Calgary.
Yeah.
And then we've built that relationship. So as things come up, you're top of mind for me. Or even if you're not, and I post something, you're in my network, and you can send me a note and say, "Hey, Melissa, I saw this. Do you think it would be a good fit?" And then we can have a conversation. I probably talk to more candidates than the majority of recruiters.
Yeah.
Because it's tough, right? It takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And if you've got searches where that person's not a fit, then you're putting your efforts into that versus putting your efforts into a search. So it really is a balancing act. And both sides of the equation are important. If you don't have client relationships, then you don't have jobs. If you don't have candidate relationships, you aren't able to find that person for that company quickly.
Yeah. Okay. And so because networking is such a huge part of what you do,
Yes.
and it's such a huge part of what sets you apart from other recruiters, and just the way that you add so much value just simply through being one of Melissa's connections on LinkedIn is going to add value to your life, because she's sharing such valuable information. She's teaching, she's giving, great info away for free. She's sharing local Calgary networking events on her LinkedIn. So tell us more about that. Like, how did you kind of come up with your entrepreneurial marketing strategy around LinkedIn, and how to set yourself apart from other recruiters? Like, tell us more about that process.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just in so many conversations with so many people, like the networking piece for years has been what I tell people. Like, Calgary is the biggest small town you will ever find. And it's all about, who do you know who knows somebody? So still today, I have conversations with people that are looking for work, and they're like, "I'm struggling." And my number one question is, are you out there networking? And what does your resume look like? And are you switching it up every time? But the networking piece is huge.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's just Calgary. I think it's definitely an Alberta thing. Less so in Ontario, but here, 100%. Like, you need to get your face out there. You need to build your cheerleaders who can then, when they're having a conversation with somebody and they're saying, "Well, I'm really, I'm looking for this type of person," then they know. Like, if somebody's looking for somebody in marketing and I know Lindsay, then I'm going to say, "Well, here's a couple people, Lindsay being one of them.
Yeah.
Here's their contact information." And I do it a lot. Like, I just had a call this week with somebody who's sort of in that career transition, not sure what their next move really should be. And I said, "Well, you need a career coach. So I'm going to send you some names." And that's how it's done. And it's so important. And it's not easy. And anybody who thinks, well, as a natural introvert, which people are like, "You're not an introvert." Yeah, I am. It is daunting to walk into a networking event where you don't know anybody, but everybody's there for the same reason. And never have I approached somebody at a networking event and had them turn their shoulder on me. Right. So yeah, I always say, go with somebody, or if I'm there and you know me, come talk to me.
Hmm. Yeah. I just came up with the title for our podcast, so I'm just writing it down.
Excellent.
Um, all right. Yeah. So the networking piece is so, so huge. And I'm really glad that you are doing such a great job of helping people with that through LinkedIn, because I totally agree. That's the hardest thing about, and I work with another client that helps a lot of women who've lost their jobs. She helps women who've, gone through divorce, and she really helps them with the building up of the confidence, because that's a big part too. If you've actually lost your job and you're not really choosing to go down this recruitment path, it's just one that
Mm.
you have to go down now. That is really hard for a lot of people to get up off the floor, dust themselves off from this, traumatic experience of losing their job, and then get out there. And so for you, being out there, making it easier for them to figure out which networking events they should go to, even just being a friendly face that is, on the path to their next job. I mean, I just think all the work that you're doing is just so fantastic. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that you do it as a business, I mean, whatever, you're doing really important, valuable, helpful work, and you're building people's confidence, and you're connecting them with the right people, and you're doing so much that's helping people. So thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you. It's interesting with the networking post that I do every Monday. Somebody said to me, "Oh, you're the events person." And I was like, "Well, no, not really. I just want to make sure everybody knows what's going on in Calgary."
Yeah, exactly. I just have to turn because I just realized that I'm like blinding everyone with all the light reflecting off of my bleached hair. Okay. Yeah, no, it's really cool that you've been posting all those. Is it Mondays that you do that? You said Mondays,
Yep.
right?
Every
Mondays.
Monday.
Awesome.
Let's get social.
Let's get social with Melissa. All right. Okay. Take us back to 10 years ago, Melissa. What would you tell her? What would you tell your 10-year younger self?
So if I think back to 10 years ago, I think 10 years ago, I was probably just starting at Spencer Stewart, which is an executive search firm, and took a role where my boss hired me because he had been a former client, and hired me to come on and be his support, but hired me based on the fact that I had a recruitment background. What he really needed was and is an EA, and that I am not. and I did the job for 3 years. By the end of it, I was struggling. So I think I would tell myself that this portion of your career, as much as there are days where you are stressed and not loving it and feeling like you're not really contributing, the experience and the knowledge that you're building working in that sector of recruitment will be invaluable to you at the end.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you would say that even though it feels like it's not a fit, it's giving you information and
Yeah.
knowledge and skills that you're going to need later. So just
Yeah.
like hang tight a little longer kind of thing.
Yeah. Executive recruitment and executive search, it's really stressful. You're dealing with organizations where they are looking to fill C-suite positions, sometimes confidentially.
Yeah.
So high degree of confidentiality, high degree of, you've got clients that are paying a large sum of money. And so there's a big push on having everything that leaves that office be tight, like very, very minimal room for error in documents that are sent out. And sometimes it kind of makes you feel like you're dumb because you're, like 5 people are looking at the same document and they're, oh, you missed this, and it kind of beat me down. But that level of customer service is part of what's now ingrained in me.
Okay.
What I send out is not going to be 1,000% perfect. That's not who I am. But the level of customer service and the degree of professionalism that I put into everything I do, a lot of it stems from that. A lot of it stems from the woman who brought me into recruitment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that's probably what I would say 10 years.
Okay. So you would let 10-year younger Melissa know that there's some really serious lessons coming, and that even though this isn't your forever shtick, you gotta take the lessons here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
It's all
really cool.
building a foundation for success.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's excellent. What kinds of events or time sensitive offers or anything like that you can think of do you have coming up, or is that not really something you've got going on right now? Or do you
No, I don't have
gigs?
anything that way going on. Nope.
Okay.
Um,
So
yeah.
basically, we just need to make sure we're connected with you on LinkedIn, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
LinkedIn is in the show notes. You can connect with Melissa there, and you can click on that link. You're also on Instagram.
Yeah. Not super active on Instagram. Yeah, LinkedIn is
Yeah.
my platform.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You spend time there every day,
Oh,
probably.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Every day, all day.
Good. Okay. So let's
Yeah.
connect with Melissa there. Is there anything else you'd like to leave our fempreneur listeners with, specifically around the area of, pivoting in their business, or maybe up leveling some of their business practices, or anything at all like that? Marketing, anything.
I would say don't doubt yourself. Don't devalue the service that you have. And all of those people that are behind you cheerleading you, they're doing it for a reason, because they see something in you that you maybe don't.
Mm-hmm.
So believe in it. Because that was one of my things. I was petrified when I started.
Right.
Yeah. And people said to me, okay, like, be prepared for X, Y, and Z. And if you prepare yourself for the worst, then nothing that comes your way can kick you off too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you said fear, like I did notice that from when we were on the panel that day, and it did sort of come down to this devaluing of ourselves as fempreneurs was stemming from imposter syndrome, which is fear based, right?
Yeah. 100%.
And so, yeah, knowing that your desire to devalue yourself is actually just it's a reaction to fear. And what we should do in fear is the opposite. We should lead in. We should really ramp up. We should really, put our hands up and roar and be more powerful. But it's training our brain away from, those.
Yeah, it is. And I have I have an acronym that I now use for fear that I learned from the author Neil Donald Walsh.
Mhm.
And I might be bastardizing this, but he wrote it as false expectations appearing real.
Mm.
So every time I get fearful about something, I'm like, okay, why am I expecting that to happen? Right? And really looking at it. And then thinking, okay, what is the worst? Yeah. And it's never as bad as what you think. Ever.
Never.
Yeah.
Never, ever. Well, thank you so much, Melissa. I know you're a busy lady. I appreciate you taking the time, and especially because this is like prime time, summertime, for you to be doing all the fun things. And so thank you for being here on the Fempreneur podcast and sharing your wisdom and empowering women to charge their worth, to not devalue themselves, to trust themselves, to really question the fear and not believe the lies that the fear is telling us, and for encouraging women to use LinkedIn as a way to network and to actually go to these in-person networking events, especially if you're in the Calgary area. Now you know where to find out about these in-person events. Melissa has them on her LinkedIn every Monday.
Every Monday, 8:30.
Yeah, girl. Okay, well, it's been an honor to have you on the podcast and just to be able to get to know you a little bit better today. So thank you, Melissa. And everyone, you can find me at yycfempreneurs.com. My name is Lindsay Berry, and you can join my online community there. You can also check out our next event, which will be posted actually later today. So by the time this is on the podcast,
Ooh,
you'll be able to see our next in-person event.
yay!
And it's going to be a great one. And I can't wait to see you all there.